ordinance 694. Now I'd like to open up the floor for discussion. Councilmember Sims. You touched your button, so I was coming in.
Well, I want to thank the audience for those of you who've been here throughout and those who are here for the first time. I always encourage public feedback. It's so very important to all of our decisions. I want to thank staff, Planning Commission, my fellow council members. Mayor Collins correctly said this is the biggest project to hit our town, and it's important that we look at it sensibly and with due care, and I think everyone is striving to do that. And I like to say we can agree to disagree, and there might be some disagreement as we go through the process, and hopefully we will collaborate and come together, and because of the process, the project will be even better. And I think that we've seen some strides in that direction, and I'm glad about that. In thinking about going forward with this project, I decided to go back and look at the keys to success that we discussed initially when we first had our first community outreach, however many months ago. And I was looking at some of the points that we took down from that, and I just want to highlight a couple of them for everyone as we make this decision tonight. One of the points is that the development should not result in a cost to residents, and it should generate revenue to fund any additional public services resulting from the increased population and traffic. And I think that we are working toward that goal very well. Talked about the commercial resort element should offer services for residents, dining, spa, retail, community gathering places. And indeed, our general plan that we worked on together and approved as a community calls for resort development and resort revitalization. And so I think that we are really looking to improving in that area with this project. Provide residential options for residents who wish to downsize but still live in town. We shouldn't ask our residents to leave, and many of our residents have voiced that they would like to stay in the town, retire in the town, but don't want all the land to take care of. And so those options are available in this SUP. As I said last week, back in 1987, when the leaders of the town decided to rezone this from 1 home, 1 acre to SUP, that was what changed this property. And so we've strived to deal with the situation that we already have. And one of the other, and perhaps I saved the best for last, one of the most important aspects in going forward with developing this project is to, as we said early on, limit heights and densities to preserve views. This may be achieved by locating taller structures in the middle of the property, providing open space and one-story elements along the perimeter, constructing underground parking, and challenging the architects to consider innovative design elements. I have been consistent since 2008 when I first looked at this project on the Planning Commission that the impact on the community is the most significant aspect of it, and one of the major impacts is the perimeter of the property. And while the property is not zoned 1 home, 1 acre, and there's going to be some density to it, it should be pushed to the center so as to reduce and minimize the impact on the surrounding community. We've heard from neighbors from Indian Bend, we've heard from neighbors from Judson, who have all looked at this plan, worked with the applicant, worked with Town Council and Planning Commission to reduce those densities on the perimeter, and I think that we have achieved that. And so I want to commend everyone who's been involved in this process, and I hope everyone will be reminded now of these considerations as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Sims. Councilmember Bean-Miller.
Thank you, Mayor Collins, and thank you all for being here again. It's always important to hear from the public in particular on these land use decisions. As I think several of the speakers stated, once the town moves forward with the development, that's a commitment from the town, and it's not like an ordinance or other action that the council can take that can easily be modified or otherwise changed if it's not quite right. So we've all been working very hard, and I'm encouraged that the plan continues to improve. I would go back to what I said before, and without repeating myself, because a lot of you all have been here for many of these meetings, this SUP document is inextricably linked, cross-references the development agreement, and there's been movement on that, which is commendable. So it needs to be thought through, thoroughly vetted. Encouraged to hear that there's a Ritz set of documents and deals in place. I certainly hope that that's memorialized even stronger than it has been already in the documents going forward. And on that basis, I think it's important to note that there wasn't a no vote last time. There was a vote for continuance, and I think there's good reason for that. And I think this is a process where it's true. The intent should never be to drag on interminably or tire the other side out. But as council people, I think and I personally can speak for myself, I'm faced with difficult decision of evaluating the risk, relying on our staff, the town attorney for that. So encouraged by progress here overall, and without specific comment on the plan at this time, I'd say that this is not right yet, in my opinion, and everyone's entitled to their own opinion on this, of course.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Bienwiller. Councilmember Stanton.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to, first of all, thank so many people who have reached out to all the council members and been very clear in their opinions one way or the other. And candidly, it's great. It's great, and it kind of goes to the question of: are we just starting? Are we about to get started on this development? And I would make the case that we have been in that process to get to a place where we could find a good product that's going to represent the character of our community, as well as what we need to have a viable partner in business moving forward. I would also say that, again, there are moving parts to this in that we know that there's a lot of passion and opinion on what happened in 2008, and this is not that SUP. This is the SUP that stands before us, which is not that same SUP. And also that we are looking at two different elements tonight. We're looking at the SUP and we're looking at the development agreement. And then finally, I think that we need to be cognizant of the fact that the process has been, no one has taken it lightly. No one has taken it as a foregone conclusion. The staff, my fellow members of the council, have given a remarkable amount of time to demonstrate that the devil is in the details, and that I don't think there's many people that would say we don't want a Ritz-Carlton. And I think tonight it was wonderful to hear that reaffirmed, that we are likely going to have that Ritz-Carlton, so congratulations to that reaffirmation. But I do think we have to be cognizant that our job is what we've been doing and continue to do in this process to make sure that the community is represented well, that we, as your elected representatives, are well versed in the details and are comfortable with our decisions, whatever they may be. So, thank you again for being here. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Stanton. Councilmember Scherf.
Thank you, Mayor. The turnout at these events, this is the third one in the last 2 weeks, is pretty amazing. I've been keeping track of how many people are speaking. 2 weeks ago, on the 3rd December, we had 19 people speak. On the 17th, we had 33 people speak, and tonight we had 18 people speak. That says a lot about this town. This is a tough decision, as you know, that we're making. We listen to people. The emails and calls this weekend were, I don't know if the word is astounding, but quite a bit of them. And the ones I received, for what it's worth, were probably 4 to 2, too much density, as opposed to, well, let's go for the project. I get both of them, but it was about 4 to 2 over the last 3 or 4 days. We listen to our citizens. It's part of our process. It has some bearing on what we do. But we have to look out for everybody, and the economic attributes of this project has a long way to go to help solidify our town, but we're continuing to look at it. And I'm not sure we're there yet on the SUP. We're getting close, but I think there's still some work to do.
All right, thank you, Councilmember Scherf. Vice Mayor Denbo.
I always try to disagree without being disagreeable, and I think that everybody in this crowd has done a pretty darn good job of being able to articulate their point without being disagreeable, and I want to thank you for that. Negotiations sometimes go on longer than you'd like, but a lot of times it's like going out to dinner with your wife. You ask where you want to go. Sometimes you come to a quick agreement, and other times more of a discussion. This is more of a discussion, and there's so many moving parts of this project that to be able to look at it and say, well, it's real easy, buttoned up, and let's make the decision today. The deal that we got back from literally not even a week ago is significantly better for the town, and I think at the end of the day, better for the applicant. I'm enormously encouraged, and I think we are very, very close to being able to have both agreements, which are absolutely locked together. So you have to have both agreements completely where you want them to be, in my opinion, before you can say yes to one and yes to the other. So you don't have a gap in between those two. I listen to what everybody tells me, and the amount of emails I got this weekend were mostly on density, and definitely wanting a Ritz Carlton. I'm enormously encouraged by now understanding that there is a document that the Ritz Carlton will be there. We only have hotels that give us really money, that and sales tax. So if we don't make this deal right, the thing we'll be talking about down the road is property tax. So when people talk about the resort replacement fees, it's critically important for our town. We're the biggest city, or the highest wealth city in the United States that does not have a property tax. We don't have our own property tax. I'm very proud of that. Hopefully that can last forever.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Hamway.
Yes, thank you. And it is exciting to read that email from the Ritz Carlton. I think that certainly gives me good comfort to go forward. I was torn about last week, and I think in hindsight, since we've seen this new plan, it was the right decision to continue it. So I applaud 4 of the council members to do that, because I think the developer came back with a better plan. All the details are not buttoned up, and it's unfortunate that they're not, but they're not. It's a complicated deal. There's lots of moving pieces. And while the 2 documents are connected, I think they also, certainly the SUP can stand alone, and I think we can look at it in a different way than we look at the development agreement. So I kind of take a different view on whether or not we need to vote on them both at the same meeting. So I don't have a real answer for that, but I do want to thank everybody. You've come out. I also want to just make one comment. When people get up and they hear all of the wonderful things about the Ritz Carlton, and obviously most of the people here want this project to go forward, we have as many or more emails and phone calls that we're dealing with other residents who don't come here that have differing opinions. So we take all of those into consideration. I mean, I know I do. And so if I were to count, pros and against, I would say it's very equal in the dealings that I'm having with residents. So to say that, all the residents of Paradise Valley want this to go forward, that's just not an accurate statement. From my personal view, I would say it's pretty evenly mixed, and people still want us to work on the details. It is a dense project, there's no doubt about that, and but I do want to move forward with it. I do support it. I am excited about the Ritz-Carlton and this email we got today. So we'll vote it and see where we fall. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hamway. If I would, Mr. Graff, if you could come up to let me some questions for you. From everything that and this is my first year being a mayor, probably never be a mayor again. One of the things that I learned, or have been told, is that the mayor shouldn't give his opinion. He should let the council members give their opinions, and should try to be as impartial as possible. And so that's my goal here tonight. Having said that, though, I do support the site plan. I, as well as Councilmember Bienwellner, Councilmember Sims, we're on the planning commission. We understand how these things evolve and how they mature, and then how they are evaluated by the legislative body, which is this council. I do disagree that the two documents are linked together, and a decision on one cannot come without the decision on the other. I look at this type of process and the negotiation a little differently, in that, from my perspective, the goal of negotiation is to try to get things off the table that you agree to. And then you focus in on the things that you don't agree to, so that you get closure to the negotiation. When you don't take things off the table, you prolong the negotiation. And that's the risk that I see with not approving the special use permit, regardless of what the vote on the development agreement is, or if there's a vote, or if the council's ready to evaluate that tonight. So to me, a vote in the affirmative for the special use permit essentially takes the site plan off the table. Now, some could argue that's not how to negotiate, because there's another document on the table, and that's a fair assessment. I'm only telling you my experience and my preference in negotiation. So I would hope that we can show good faith and make progress on this very important project, because I do believe, like other council members have said tonight, that I believe a clear majority of this council supports the Ritz Carlton coming to Paradise Valley. It's just, when are we going to reach that bar where 4 council members can agree that the plan presented in front of us is sufficient enough and good enough for the residents who put us into office? So, Mr. Graff, I brought you up here really as an opportunity for the council members to ask me the questions that they may have. But I think that the one question that I have for you, and then we have talked about this option to continue, and I really don't see tonight I don't see anyone up here who's going to make a motion to deny and kill this thing tonight. I see one of two outcomes. I see we vote to approve. If we don't get the 4, we vote to continue. The holidays are coming. The next council meeting is set for January 14th. I don't know that it's possible to get the council together prior to November 14th or January 14th. It might be possible. That would be a discussion we would have to have. But Mr. Graff, I guess I want to ask you, or give you an opportunity to share with us any implications or challenges further continuance of the case on the special use permit might have for your client.
Absolutely. Mayor, members of the council, we as the applicant obviously would fully support, obviously full approval tonight, but we would also support, if it was deemed by the council's appropriate, approval of the special use permit, as we are yet to have a discussion on the development agreement, even if they were treated as 2 standalone documents. We have a lot of moving parts, as does the town. We have ongoing discussions and commitments to the Ritz. You heard today, we do have those agreements in hand. There are certain expectations by the Ritz that things would be moving along toward approval by the end of this month. That has put us in a difficult position as well. I will tell you that an approval of the special use permit, basically a blessing of our zoning, of the site plan, of the work that has been put in to what you see before you tonight, would be an excellent step in the right direction. And I agree, it is the point where I think we do finally have enough of a consensus between the applicant and the council to check that box tonight. And that's a box that can only be checked after the 9 months of negotiation. This is not a run-of-the-mill, quick win decision. This has been fully vetted. So I would submit that having another dual continuance tonight would be detrimental to the process, detrimental to our team. And frankly, if the decision of this council tonight is that we're not quite there on the development agreement, then so be it. Let's focus in on the development agreement. Let's get this done. Let's move past this plan, and let's get these finer points, which I believe we are just there. I mean, I would contend we are. But if there's enough members of the council that don't believe we're there yet tonight, we'll listen, we'll continue to negotiate. You have a great team of staff and attorneys. We have a very committed team. We will work to get those points put together by January 14th or earlier.
All right, thank you, Mr. Graff. Are there any questions from council for Mr. Graff, Vice Mayor Hembrook?
More of a comment. I look at the 2 documents from listening to lawyers as being pretty much, if you lock this one in, you can't do anything with this. But from a 10,000 foot level, getting a document today that for this transparent government that everybody hasn't had a good chance to look at, even though there have been small points and small tweaks, some of them, the unintended consequences of those might not be so easily apparent, and certainly allow the residents of the town to look at and give their feedback as well, because I listen to what they say. Having more than one day, that's what's in certainly my head, and I wouldn't be surprised if other council members have those concerns or thoughts as well.
Mayor, members of the council, I appreciate that and I respect that point as well. I would say that the change to the plan today, although having a significant impact on density, is so de minimis. We did not change the overall flow. If anything, we reduced traffic counts, we reduced density. Everything in the change today could be contemplated in the positive for the town. So I do not believe it's something that would be difficult to evaluate from today. That being said, I do respect your comment.
All right, thank you, Mr. Graff. Are there any other questions for Mr. Graff? If not, is there any other discussion? If not, I will ask Mr. Miller to call the roll call vote, please. And if there are any comments from council members at the time of vote, that will be. Vice Mayor Denbo. Oh, I'm sorry, let me repeat the motion. Yes, that is also a job of the mayor, as I've heard. I told you. All right, I'm moving on. All right, so I'm sorry. The motion on the floor, which has been moved and seconded, is the consideration of ordinance number 694, special use permit for the Ritz Carlton, Paradise Valley. Vice Mayor Denbo.
I don't want my vote to be taken in vain other than what it is. I want to make sure that both documents are ready to go when I vote on either one, and I'm voting no.
Vice Mayor Denbo votes no. Councilmember B.N. Wellner.
Nay.
Councilmember B.N. Wellner votes nay. Councilmember Hamway.
Yes.
Councilmember Hamway votes yes. Councilmember Scher.
I don't consider a 0.5% reduction in density to be a big gift by the developer or do much for the town. I vote no.
Councilmember Scher votes no. Councilmember Stanton.
I applaud the reduction in density. I do look at both of these as separate elements. I don't see them as a combination, and so I'm going to vote in favor of the SUP.
Councilmember Stanton votes yes. Councilmember Sims.
Yes.
Councilmember Sims votes yes. Mayor Collins. Yes. Mayor Collins votes yes. On this vote, the ayes are 4 and the nays are 3. All right, thank you, Mr. Miller, and thank you. That was a vote to approve ordinance number 694, special use permit for the Ritz Carlton, Paradise Valley. So the next item up for discussion is ordinance number 696, approval.
I make a motion?
Well, do we have a staff presentation also?
We have a presentation?
Yes, ma'am. So the next item on the agenda is